U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump is leading his rivals for the GOP nomination ahead of the crucial New York primary. But he's already started to attack the U.S. election structure. He says the way the United States chooses party nominees for president is corrupt and crooked.
We've got a corrupt system. It's not right. We're supposed to be a democracy. We're supposed to be, you vote and the vote means something, all right? You vote and the vote means something. And we've got to do something about it. Now, here's what's going to happen. We're doing fine. We should have won it a long time ago. But, we keep losing where we're winning.
Trump says the person who wins the most votes in the state-by-state primary process should automatically be the party's nominee.
And in all fairness, take a look at what's happening to Bernie. He wins, and I hear he doesn't have a chance. This is a crooked system, folks. This is a crooked. I'm not a fan of Bernie. I couldn't care less. As far as I'm concerned, I couldn't care less about Bernie. But he wins, and he wins like me.
Now match this against speculations that the Bash billionaire, whose positions have drawn criticism from all sides, is already risking losing the GOP convention. Does he feel he may not get nominated by his party?
Well, the reason that Donald Trump is saying this is because he is a very, very desperate man. He does not have the 1,237 delegates that he needs to secure the Republican nomination going into the convention. And so now, in the middle of the game, he's screaming that the game isn't fair and that the rules need to be changed.
Trump's attack on the U.S. election structure drew immediate criticism from his fellow Republican rival Ted Cruz. Cruz rejected the accusation by the Republican candidate frontrunner that his rivals are siphoning off some of the delegates he believes should be rightfully his.
I'm hundreds of delegates ahead, but the system, folks, is rigged. It's a rigged, disgusting, dirty system. It's a dirty system. And only a non-politician would say it, because I don't care. Look, if it doesn't happen, I'm here for one reason: make America great again. That's the only reason. That's the only reason.
What he's doing is, as he says so often, he loves the uneducated. What he's doing is he's playing to the sentiments of those who won't read the newspaper, who don't really understand the process, and think that his screaming, well, because I have the most votes, I should win, that's not how the game is played.
Donald Trump has topped the national polls throughout most of the race for the Republican nomination. He has already won more delegates than any other Republican so far. But it appears that he will still need to come to terms with the political reality of candidates chasing delegates ahead of their nominating convention this summer.
On the one hand, that logic is more democratic. One person, one vote. Does make sense. But on the other hand, what that does is it gives the advantage to the larger states in terms of electing a president. So what the framers of the Constitution were trying to do was trying to find a balance so that the smaller, residents of smaller states could actually still have a voice in the process, even though, again, they don't live in the larger states such as California, Texas, and New York.
Both Trump and Cruz risk not acquiring enough delegates for a first ballot victory. This could leave many free to switch their votes on later ballots. And that possibility has already cast doubts on whether the next occupier of the White House will be a Republican.
He's seen by many as worse than the despotic former President Hosni Mubarak, since he's following in his footsteps when it comes to foreign policy. Abdel Fattah el-Sisi is accused of granting concessions to foreign countries at the expense of the Egyptian people. The Egyptian president has sold the two islands of Tiran and Sanafir in the corner of the Red Sea to the Saudi king, who was on an official visit to Egypt. Though arid and uninhabited, the two islands at the mouth of the Gulf of Aqaba are of high strategic significance.
It gives them just another layer of strategic, there's a strategic secrecy that they have access to now. Those islands could have enough room for airplane landing strips. There's all types of potential malfeasance that could take place now that they have those strategic assets.
The harsh repression of dissent aside, Sisi's latest move has drawn widespread condemnation at home, and it's been met with surprise abroad. Following Sisi's move to sell the islands to Saudi Arabia, a huge number of posts flooded social media, which unanimously condemned Sisi, with some critics calling Sisi, quote, Awad, a character in an old Egyptian song notorious for selling his land, a shameful act in the eyes of rural people in Egypt. Famous Egyptian satirist Bassem Youssef wrote on Twitter, quote, The island is for 1 billion, the pyramids are for 2, and they come with 2 gift statues on top. Political analysts outside Egypt say it's surprising that Sisi agreed to give sovereignty over the islands to the Saudis, given sensitivities in Egypt to surrendering land to foreigners. After Sisi came to power, he introduced a clause in the constitution that explicitly prohibited ceding Egyptian territory. Nathan Brown, an American scholar at George Washington University, said in an email, quote, The irony of the post-2013 regime ceding Tiran to Saudi Arabia after having inserted this clause will not be lost on those with any political memory of the controversies of former President Mohamed Morsi's year in office. Morsi had been accused of plotting to give a part of the Sinai Peninsula to the Palestinian resistance movement, Hamas. The Saudis have pledged to honor Israel's peace terms for islands given by Egypt. Israel was reportedly informed of the new agreement transferring authority over the Gulf of Aqaba's Sanafir and Tiran from Cairo to Riyadh. This clearly displays the close relationship between Saudi Arabia and Israel and how their political moves are now coordinated. Saudi Arabia is now considered to be more concerned with Israel's security than that of Palestinians.
Israel is a major player in the Middle East. They're going to be involved in these clandestine activities. Whether we know about them or not, these islands will definitely benefit them. They have close relationships with the Saudis, even though they don't admit it. They can use these islands as conduits and moving products into, like I said, Syria or Iraq, or other regions where they want to destabilize.
Upon learning about the transfer of Tiran and Sanafir, angry people gathered in Tahrir Square, the site of the 2011 protest that led to the ouster of Mubarak. A number of people were arrested, and the demonstration was broken up by security forces. Egypt has long been the land of crackdown on dissent. Historians refer to the country not as a state with an army, but an army with a state. Sisi has faced unusually harsh criticism for his handling of the struggling economy of Egypt, which is considered a de facto bankrupt country. But can selling territory to Saudi Arabia for what Egyptian activists call a fistful of dollars solve the country's problems? Many doubt that the land sale will rescue Egypt's economy.
In a rare acknowledgement, U.S. President Barack Obama has named Libya as the worst mistake of his presidency. Too little, too late, but Obama says his administration should have done better in handling Libya's situation after the ouster of former dictator Muammar Gaddafi in 2011.
Biggest accomplishment?
Saving the economy from a Great Depression.
Worst mistake?
Probably failing to plan for the day after what I think was the right thing to do in intervening in Libya.
I would have had more respect for President Obama if he had said that giving the green light to Britain and France to militarily intervene in Libya was the greatest mistake of his presidency.
The moment of truth for Obama came at an extremely crucial juncture, when the Americans are thinking over who to elect as their next president. And its implications could undermine the Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton, who was Obama's Secretary of State when the U.S. launched the Libya war.
We did not put one single American soldier on the ground in Libya. I think President Obama made the right decision at the time. And the Libyan people had a free election, the first time since 1951. And you know what? They voted for moderates. They voted with the hope of democracy.
Is Libya perfect? It isn't. But did they have 2 elections that were free and fair where they voted for moderates? Yes, they did. So, yes, I mean, Libya was a different kind of calculation. Yeah. And we didn't lose a single person. We didn't have a, problem in supporting our European and Arab allies in working with NATO.
Obama's acknowledgement of failure in Libya is also seen as a confession of blame for the emergence of the ISIL terrorist group. The timing of this is also crucial, given that the so-called U.S. war on terror is failing to make any significant progress, specifically in Iraq and Syria. The message that Obama is sending out to the world, and particularly Washington's allies, is that of desperate perplexity toward the terrorists who are increasingly becoming active in Europe these days.
Libya today is a failed state. It is a base for various Islamist terrorist groups, including ISIS. It has become a training ground for various Islamist terrorist groups. So, in my opinion, that is what President Obama should acknowledge, and he should give an unequivocal, unconditional apology to the people of Libya for turning their country into a failed state, and he should apologize to people in the wider region for enabling Islamist terrorist groups to have a base in North Africa, which can strike not just in North Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, but also in Europe.
Obama's remarks on his worst mistake over the past 8 years have provoked widespread reactions, and the media are highlighting a lesson that the U.S. president had previously said he learned within the same context. When we are asked to intervene militarily, do we have a plan for the day after? Obama's comments may now provide a glimpse into the reasons why the White House has failed to go to war in conflict zones like Syria.
I think in some ways you could say that the president has tried to apply this lesson in considering the use of military in other circumstances. That asking the question about what situation will prevail and what sort of commitments from the international community will be required after that military intervention has been ordered by the commander-in-chief.
One of the most startling aspects to Western foreign policy, or to Western foreign policy makers, is that they either don't learn from their mistakes or they just don't care. Because Afghanistan has proved to be a catastrophe, Iraq was a catastrophe, and Libya has proved to be a catastrophe. I'd also add on to that Kosovo as well.
Obama has said that there should have been a ground invasion after the NATO war on Libya, as if that would have prevented the chaos that Libya is in right now. If Iraq and Afghanistan are anything to go by, Obama is sadly mistaken.
And always have maintained it.
So, just to button this up.
I guarantee it.